Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Bhagavad-Gita as it is by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Srila Prabhupada. And we're doing chapter 2, contents of the Gita summarized. And we're doing text 26. So you'll repeat after me. Ata Chainam Nityajatam Nityam Va Manyasi Ritam Tatapi Tvam Mahabaho Nainam Sochitum Ahasi. Okay, so we'll do word for word. Ata, if, however. Cha, also. Inam, this soul. Nityajatam, always born. Nityam, forever. Va, either. Manyase, you so think. Ritam, dead. Tata api, still. Tvam, you. Mahabaho, O mighty armed one. Na, never. Inam, about the soul. Sochitum, to lament. Ahasi, deserve. If, however, you think that the soul or the symptoms of life will always be born and die forever, you still have no reason to lament, O mighty armed. So repeat. If, however, you think that the soul or the symptoms of life will always be born and die forever, you still have no reason to lament, O mighty armed. Purport. There's always a class of philosophers, almost akin to the Buddhists, who do not believe in the separate existence of the soul beyond the body. When Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad-Gita, it appears that such philosophers existed, and they were known as the Lokayatikas and Vaibhasikas. Such philosophers maintain that life symptoms take place at a certain mature condition of material combination. The modern material scientists and materialist philosophers also think similarly. According to them, the body is a combination of physical elements, and at a certain stage the life symptoms develop by interaction of the physical and chemical elements. The science of anthropology is based on this philosophy. Currently, many pseudo-religions, now becoming fashionable in America, are also adhering to this philosophy, as are the nihilistic, non-devotional Buddhist sects. Even if Arjuna did not believe in the existence of the soul, as in the Vaibhasika philosophy, there would still have been no cause for lamentation. No one laments the loss of a certain bulk of chemicals and stops discharging his prescribed duty. On the other hand, in modern science and scientific warfare, so many tons of chemicals are wasted for achieving victory over the enemy. According to the Vaibhasika philosophy, the so-called soul or Atma vanishes along with the deterioration of the body. So in any case, whether Arjuna accepted the Vedic conclusion that there is an atomic soul, or he did not believe in the existence of the soul, he had no reason to lament. According to this theory, since there are so many living entities generating out of matter every moment, and so many of them are being vanquished every moment, there is no need to grieve for such incidents. if there were no rebirth for the soul, Arjuna had no reason to be afraid of being affected by sinful reactions due to his killing his grandfather and teacher. But at the same time, Krishna sarcastically addressed Arjuna as Mahabahu, mighty armed, because he at least did not accept the theory of the Vaibhasikas, which leaves aside the Vedic wisdom. As a Kshatriya, Arjuna belonged to the Vedic culture, and it behooved him to continue to follow its principles. Okay, so what I would like to do is to review what has brought us up to this point. Okay. So first, I'd like to ask the devotees about why this is titled The Contents of the Gita Summarized. Does anyone have any idea why it's titled? I always wondered why it was called that title, but I just found out. So, does anyone like to add to the...
Krishna is giving to Arjuna whatever the questions are there in the answer there.
Yes, because also Krishna in this chapter discusses the matters of karma yoga, jnana yoga, and he also gives a glimpse of bhakti-yoga. And these topics, as we know, are discussed in the whole Gita, in the entire Gita. So in this chapter, Krishna, he's giving an analytical study of the material body and the spirit soul, and that's jnana or sankhya. And he's discussing working with and without attachment to the results, sakama and niskama, karmas. And then he's discussing in here the characteristics of a person fixed in the concept of the real self, sthita prajna. So we'll review up to the point where, up to 26, what's being, discussed here. And I like to review because I don't know about anybody else, but my mind is kind of like a sieve. It goes in and somehow it drips out somewhere. I'm not sure. So for me to review is good because then I can put everything together, So in this chapter here, in verses 1 through 10, Arjuna is experiencing indecision about fighting. He's lamenting about having to kill his relatives and especially his superiors like Dronacharya and Bhishma. So, and he's a tender-hearted devotee. He's soft-hearted, so he's expressing compassion, having to do this, and he already put forth all the reasons, why he was feeling that way. But Krishna chastises him for this because he's telling him that this lamentation is misplaced. And actually, you think about it in terms of the culture. He's putting this etiquette, this culture in the wrong field. This is the battlefield. This is where Krishna is, changing, wanting to kill all those who are demoniac and adverse to what he wants to happen on the planet and wanting to put Yudhisthira on the throne. So Krishna's, disapproving of what, of this compassion. That although he does say that, devotees are soft-hearted and compassionate, but they can't be sentimental either. So, and then but we also know that Arjuna, he is not an ordinary person. He's an eternal servant and associate of Krishna. But he's been put into illusion by Krishna's will because it's said that it's impossible to understand under the spell of ignorance, and we all were under ignorance before we came into this movement. And to drive away this ignorance, the Lord teaches the Bhagavad-Gita for the enlightenment of all living entities for all time. So this is actually put forth by Krishna, not for Arjuna, but for all of us, to understand our position in this material world. So in this chapter, he's wanting Arjuna to understand the difference between the material and the spiritual. So so Krishna is telling him, how are these impurities? You're a Kshatriya. How have you come to this position? And how are you having all these impurities? And he actually somewhat calls him a fool, for not understanding the knowledge that he should be applying in this situation. So Krishna is trying to enlighten him about that, And he didn't expect this because he saw Arjuna as a spiritually realized person. And he was deviating from his prescribed duties. And so he told him, to give up this petty weakness of heart. And petty weakness of heart is something that's trivial, that's unimportant, it's small-minded. And he was he was saying how degrading it is for him as a Kshatriya, to take this position on the battlefield, to say that he's going to give up, that he's going to put down his bow, that if necessary, he's going to go and, become a beggar. So Krishna tells him this is degrading for you as a Kshatriya. So Arjuna is thinking, how these persons, they should be worshipped. These are my superiors. And saying he would rather beg. And then he was saying that he didn't want to enjoy the results of victory if it didn't include all his relatives. He felt like gaining all this would be tainted with blood, and he didn't want to, to enjoy at the expense of killing Dronacharya. And we all know, after reading Gita and reading the Mahabharata, how close Arjuna and Bhishma they were, what type of relationship they had. So then, Arjuna actually his intelligence is bewildered. He was confused. So in text number 7 is when, in this chapter, in text number 7 is when Arjuna decides to surrender to Krishna, to come off the platform of being friends, and to see Krishna as his superior, and to take knowledge from him. So some of, I would like it to be interactive. So what are some of the qualities, what are Arjuna's qualifications that made Krishna want to impart this knowledge to him?
He was non-envious.
Yes, he was non-envious. Anything else?
He's also in relationship with Krishna.
Yes. Any others? Well, in let's see. In chapters 1, text 32, Arjuna is described as being Sama and Dhamma, meaning he has control over his mind and senses. So if you don't have control over your mind and senses, then you're not going to be able to really utilize the knowledge that you've been given. Because, at least in my case, I've found that knowing the Gita has helped me and has helped me in, like making decisions when certain situations come into my life. It helps me to apply the knowledge. this is something I didn't have before because I didn't know anything about the Gita. So my decisions were whimsical. But we don't have to make whimsical decisions now. We have the Gita, we have the scriptures, we have sadhu, and we have guru. So here, Arjuna surrendering to him. And another characteristic that he had is uparati. He had indifference to enjoyment. Because if he was attached to enjoyment, why would he go to the forest and if it was a beggar, especially as a sattva, So he's not attached to his kingdom or his wealth. He's just attached to his family members, actually. So, and then another characteristic is titikshika. He has tolerance towards the dualities, which are exhibited in this material world due to the three modes of nature. So we've all experienced dualities, And then also, one really big important thing is Shraddha. He had faith in Krishna and in Krishna's words. So he was perfectly qualified to receive this knowledge from Krishna. So Krishna is admonishing Arjuna, don't lament unnecessarily, He's telling him that the soul exists eternally. All the living entities exist eternally, so you're not really killing anyone. And the change of the body is as natural as changing clothes. So he's also teaching, from verses 11 through 30, he's giving the analysis of the difference between the body and the soul. And another question I would like to share, I have the devotees share with me, is to talk about what are some of the qualities that are in this chapter. In a lot of the verses, there are so many characteristics that are described about the soul, and why and how the soul lives eternally and how it can't be destroyed. So can anyone, share with me some of, the things that make the soul imperishable, how it can't be destroyed by certain. There are some of the things he says directly, like, for instance, I'll give you a hint. Like, nanam chendanti sastrani. That means that the soul cannot be cut by weapons. Yes, cannot be moistened by water. Anything else?
Soul is internal.
It's eternal. But what are some of the characteristics, other characteristics, like, for instance, it cannot be burnt by fire. So, exactly. And also it cannot be moistened, you said that, by water. And it's unbreakable. Can't be cut, cannot be burnt. No, and also this one about burnt by fire is because some non-believers don't think that there are souls on the sun because the sun is too hot. But if the sun cannot be burnt, if the soul cannot be burnt by fire, then naturally souls live in the sun, isn't it? There are certain souls that can live in the sun because it can't be burnt by fire. And also, it's insoluble. It cannot be dried. And it's saying that nitya sarvagata stanur, it's everlasting, exists everywhere and unchangeable. And actually, for me, this was a really nice time to be able to read this about the soul, because my mother just passed last week and left her body. And actually, she was 99, so she had a long, good life. But I was feeling, actually, we miss the person, but we also are joyful for the person because they've left that body and passed on, to a better life. Because as devotees, we know that all of our family members are benefiting from our practice in devotional service. I think it's how many generations ahead and generations behind? There's different stories, but at least we know that, all our relatives are going to be benefited by our practicing Krishna consciousness. So I'm happy for my mother that she's, changing bodies and getting a new one, and is going to have a chance to come into devotional service. Because she wouldn't take it while she was here. She didn't. No, she didn't. She wasn't interested. She wasn't interested, But she had prasadam. She heard Hare Krishna. So my reading this chapter was for me, especially, to read about this, and we can be comforted by that, by the fact that they're, having a better life next time, Yes.
Can I ask questions?
You can.
The soul carry impressions,
Mm-hmm.
like impressions from the lives that the soul has.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes,
It can.
it can. Mm-hmm. She said the soul carries impressions from life to life, in the subtle body. But I know in the Srimad Bhagavatam it does say that the only way the subtle body can be dissolved is by devotional service, isn't it? It can be dissolved. It's true that if the subtle body, thank you, carries those impressions, and that's how you get a new body. Carrying, if you have material desires, or you carry it to your next body, and Krishna enables you to fulfill those desires that you were carrying into your next body. For instance, if you say, in this lifetime, I want to buy a house, or I want to get married, or I want, if you carry that with you, then you will have to fulfill it in your next life. Because I think Prabhupada said, if you just have a pinch of material desire, then you have to come back, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to come back to fulfill that desire. So what we should be desiring is to please Krishna, to love Krishna, to serve Krishna, to make Krishna happy. He should be the foremost in our mind. So if we carry that with us, there's every chance of us going back to Godhead.
I have a question on that. So all of us, we try to get rid of our material desires, but we all start off as being full of desires, right? When the body, when the soul is leaving the body, is it only at that point of time what you're thinking, or how long does it go back? Is it like what you've done in the last 10 days, 10 years? Because if it is all your life, then you can't then move to, say, go back to Godhead, because at some point when you were a child or when you were a young adult.
But when the devotees take up this practice of Krishna consciousness, then we're practicing to go back to Godhead, to chant Krishna's name, to serve Krishna. Where all the devotees here are doing devotional service. So that's going to help us, to come back in if we have to come back in a devotee body and continue, because the spiritual credits that we carry with us. That will never go away. We carry it with us, and it's added to the next life. It's an increase, So it's always in our bank account that we carry with us. All the spiritual activities that we've done goes with us. So it's always, if we don't go back to Godhead this life, it's always going to be an improved condition, because we've done.
The actual time of death is what you remember at the time of death. It's given in 86.
Okay.
Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body.
Yes.
Outside of into that state, he will tell you that fact.
Thank you.
Of course, it's influenced by what you've done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's your consciousness, a state of consciousness, which is accumulation.
Yes.
So your consciousness at the time of death determines your next destination.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that.
It's very important to have. That's why we have to be Krishna conscious.
Yes.
So
We have
that
to
we can take that consciousness.
to try to remember Krishna. That's why we're all practicing, right? To try to remember. To try to remember Krishna, because at the time of death, that's the test. What to remember.
And there's some very interesting quotes about that.
Yes.
That if a devotee is sincere and not a cheater, then if somehow they slip up and forget Krishna at the time of death, Krishna won't forget them.
Yes.
Krishna knows our hearts, he knows our intentions, he knows what is the actual goal
Yes.
of our heart.
Because he's residing there. He's living there.
We have that actual real goal
Yes.
to serve Krishna and to love him,
Yes.
then he won't let us forget him.
Thank you. No. He's dragging us along. I think last one of the class I mentioned how I saw this cartoon when Krishna's grabbing the devotee by the seeker saying, you started this process, now you have to come and finish it. Yes. You know, Krishna is so very kind.
And if not Krishna, then Srila Prabhupada.
Yes. The spiritual master. Actually, I have a story to tell about that. One of my godbrothers, in fact, this has happened twice, this type of incident in my life with my Guru Maharaj. Just recently, one of my godbrothers in Australia, he left his body, Jai Vijay. But before he left his body, my Guru Maharaj came in a dream to another devotee who was a friend of his and told him, I'm coming to get him. That I'm coming to get him. Because he had pancreatic cancer. I think it was pancreatic cancer. No. Jai Vijay had. He was temple president, I think, in Australia. So then when his friend went to go visit Jai Vijay, he found him unconscious, that he had left his body, he was in his room. His eyes were open, he left his body, but he had his hand in his bead bag. You know, and my Guru Maharaj had just told his friend, I'm coming to get him. You know. So it gives you like great hope that the spiritual master is coming to get you. And one other incident was one of my godbrothers was in the hospital waiting for a heart transplant. And when Guru Maharaj visited him, he told him, in case he left his body, don't worry, I'll be there in the transition. You know, so we have all help. Krishna, actually my realization is that Krishna really, 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 really wants us back. He loves us. You know, he wants us back. So he's giving, if you read the scriptures, if you read the Gita, you can see that Krishna is giving all opportunity beyond what we would give to a person, actually. You know, because sometimes when someone like really goes beyond, we're like, okay, I'm done with that. But Krishna is not done with that. He's not done with it at all. He wants us. He wants to bring us home. You know. So we should very much be hopeful and be happy to try to practice and chant, you know, and serve him because of his love for us. Okay, I guess maybe I'll get back to the I was going through text 11 through 30, and it talks about the analysis, the difference between the material and actually matter and spirit. So we're in the point where where Arjuna is expressing his doubts, about having to kill his relatives. But actually, it's said that even, say for instance, his teacher, Dronacharya, It's said here, if a teacher does an abominable action and has lost discrimination, is fit to be abandoned. And then it says, Bhishma and Drona were obliged to take the side of Duryodhana because of his financial assistance, and thus they lost their respectability. Yet Arjuna didn't want to kill them because of his continued acceptance of them as gurus. So Arjuna is confused. He's like, should I fight and risk unnecessary violence? All these questions were coming in his mind. Should I refrain and live by begging? Victory, anyways, is uncertain, and he's expressing all these doubts. Victory is also defeat, because how can you live happily after you killed all your relatives? He's saying, I can't be happy, because I have to kill them. So then we were on the verse where he says, where he surrenders. He said, okay, I'm surrendering to you, Krishna. You tell me what to do, because I don't know what to do. So we all have to submit. We have to surrender to a person with the higher knowledge, and that's our spiritual master, and seek his guidance. He can help us solve the perplexities of life, and then to actually understand what is the solution to this problem. And at least I know for myself, sometimes I'm not quite sure when my Guru is on the planet. Sometimes we may have doubts. He may tell you something, and your first reaction may be, I don't know. But we have to have explicit faith in the spiritual master because he's a representative of Krishna. And actually, even Srila Prabhupada is always saying how Krishna dictated all these books, and Krishna was always talking to him and, guiding him. So he was just overwhelmed by false grief, due to his affection for his family. So Krishna goes on to enlighten him. So this is when he, in verse 11, this is when he tells Arjuna that you're mourning for what's not worthy of mourning, of grief. You're speaking learned words, but actually you're a fool, So we know in verse 12, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. And in this verse, Krishna is established as the eternal amongst all the eternal living beings. And he's a maintainer of all the individual living entities, both in the conditioned and liberated states. Also, this verse, he also gives this verse to Arjuna, and everybody knows this one. Dehi nosmin yata dehi kumaram yovanam jara tata dehantra praptir diras tatra chamuyate. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So Krishna is telling him, Bhishma and Drona, they're noble souls, so they'll surely get spiritual bodies. Once they leave their bodies, they get a spiritual body, or at least heavenly bodies. So in either case, he was telling Arjuna, so you don't have to lament for them. So Arjuna, as a sattva, he has to fight. He has to fight anyway. And actually, the size of the soul is 1/10,000th part of the tip of the hair. It is a spiritual atom smaller than the material atoms. It is situated within the heart, and it is beyond measurement and cannot even be seen by an enemy, to say nothing of being killed. That's amazing, huh? What is killed is only the material body. So thus Arjuna, he's telling Arjuna, soul is neither the killer nor is the object of killing. And we know the soul undergoes six changes, namely birth, existence, growth, producing byproducts, dwindling, and death. And the soul doesn't undergo these changes. Only the material body undergoes the changes. And we can tell, as our bodies get older, how we're, experiencing different changes in the body from when we were young. So Krishna is giving all these, points to Arjuna to enlighten him. He explains about the soul. He talks about the qualities of the soul. He talks about how the soul is imperishable and how the soul changes bodies. And then in this text that I'm reading, text 26, and then he tells Arjuna, well, even if you don't believe in it, the soul, like he's talking about these different types of persons. The Lokayatas, there's definitions here about the Lokayatas. They claim that the body is Atma, or the self, which is continuously born and continually dies. And the Vaibhasikas maintain that the Atma is different from the body, but is still subject to destruction at every moment. And then he talks about the Buddhists. So the Buddhist belief is that they call it the anatta or the anatman doctrine of non-self, that there's no unchanging permanent self. They don't believe in it. There's no unchanging permanent self, soul, or essence. So that's why Prabhupada calls them nihilistic. That means that's erasing the whole idea of a soul being in existence. And in terms of the body changing, we know that the cells, I was reading, there are 50 to 70 trillion cells in the body. And they're changing all the time. Actually, it's being said that you get a new body, that all when the cells start changing, but and then they have to, and these 50 to 7 billion cells die. And then the average body of the adult they have to make another 50 to 70 trillion to replace those ones that have died. No. So we can't see those changes, but we can only see it, in terms of materially how the body is changing, dwindling, When the cells grow old, they become damaged, they die, and then new cells take their place. So the gist of it is that we don't have to really lament for the soul, because the soul never dies. We don't have to lament. There's no need for lamentation. Except for devotees, we are sad about separation from the person, that we were, having a relationship with and attached to. But then on the other hand, having the knowledge that we have, we know that, as I said before, that they're going on to a better life. You know. So, anyway, it's 6, so I'm gonna stop here, and if anyone wants to add and help out, and add something to it, or something I missed or didn't make clear or needed correcting, I'm open. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yes. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Just like the other, Krishna is telling to Arjuna, yes,
Doesn't go.
It's not on.
sound is great.
No.
No.
Okay, just talk loud, Prabhu. It's not working? It's okay. Can you say, is it just say?
That's like Krishna is telling Arjuna, and this, you are not killing the soul, you are killing the body. In the Bhishma Pita and this one,
Yes.
they will change the dress. The soul doesn't have any, it will be not destroyed.
Yes.
The soul will take another birth or maybe be liberated because it is killing in front of Krishna.
Yes.
So similarly, I have a doubt. When we are killing the cow, we are killing the body of cow, but the soul we are not killing. So why there is some difference between the killing of cow and killing here in Bhishma Pita? Can you speak something?
You mean the slaughtering of the cows?
Killing the cow, just like you are killing the
Okay.
Bhishma Pita, you are killing the cow.
Yes, but this killing, this war, is planned by Krishna. He's replacing, he wants to have Yudhisthira and the Pandavas, because they're righteous, to rule the world. You know, in the Gita it says, I come to annihilate the miscreants. So he wants all those demoniac kings to be killed, their body to be killed, because they're creating disturbances on the earth. And he wants to put in a righteous government so the people can be happy. But in terms of comparing with the cow slaughtered, that is not sanctioned, because the cow is sacred to Krishna. Krishna loves his cows. They're all in the spiritual world, even, like we read about Krishna and his attachment to his cows, and how Nanda Maharaj has 900,000 cows, and how Krishna calls them by their names, and how he loves them so much. So this cow slaughtering is done by demoniac mentality, and they have no authority to take their life. Krishna is giving Arjuna the authority. I'm telling you to do this. And Krishna is never wrong. But Krishna's not telling these people to kill those cows. They have a right to live out their life.
Everybody having the duration of the life, maybe the cow's life duration is that much, that's why they're killing, and their soul may be taking another birth or maybe taking another dress.
You mean like this cow slaughtering is
Yeah.
not into, no.
Their destiny is that you are being slaughtered and
That's a very useful to get reaction for it.
your soul will be changing the body.
But it's still unauthorized. Krishna didn't tell you to kill the cows. That's the point.
That's like you said, Krishna loved the cows.
Yes.
Similarly, Arjuna loved Bhishma Pita and Dronacharya.
But it's different. Krishna is telling him to. Krishna's authority is the last line. There's no questioning Krishna's authority. Krishna knows what he's doing, and Arjuna's is not a conditioned soul. Actually, so he's taking this role for us to understand. And in fact, we need to kill our demoniac mentality. So his authority is the last word. Yes. Yes, please. Please.
So we understand from all the scriptures that killing, period, is very, very simple.
Yes.
Like even if no one has the right to take anyone's life because they didn't give it.
Right.
In the material world, because people live and they die and animals live and die, there's certain guidelines that human beings have to, on righteous principles to kill. And it should only be on righteous principles and only under the authority of Shastra and Krishna. Otherwise, it's severe penalty to kill anyone, any living entity. Very, very serious. And the more helpless the living entity is, the more consequences. So like a baby or a cow or an animal, anything that can't help itself. If you fight with an equal, then, consequences are different. So Krishna makes it very clear in all the scriptures that any kind of killing is very sinful. In the material world, sometimes you have to kill, and if you do it under righteous principles, there's no sin incurred. And that's what's happening in the Bhagavad-Gita. For a Kshatriya, an administrator, a leader, a king, a ruler, whose business it is to keep the Lord's world in order.
Yes, ma'am.
They're not necessarily non-violent all the time. They may have to kill in order to keep righteousness in check.
Yes.
So it's a very important point to understand.
Yes.
The distinction.
The example is, was it King Parikshit who was chasing after the cow because she wouldn't give, there are instances when he was going to kill,
Yeah.
because that is also, they're allowed to hunt. They're allowed to kill animals. Sattvias are allowed.
And Prabhupada gives another example that if a soldier kills in a war,
Mm-hmm.
then he's doing what his job is. But if he comes home, that very same soldier, and kills another person, he will be imprisoned and he will face serious reactions. And he might say, but I just killed a man over in the war. No, you were doing that under the authority of the government. So if you do something under the authority of God's government, for righteous principles, then that is a protected area. Because you're acting on behalf of reestablishing righteous principles.
And I think
You will never unnecessarily kill a cow or an ant or a tree.
even. Also the example, if a person kills another person, then the killer has to be killed by the government, because if not, then he'll still have to get that punishment in the next life for killing, for taking that life. So in order to, let him suffer less in the next life, the government takes his life for taking another life. Is that clear? Yes, ma'am.
One sentence. As for killing relatives and authorities, Krishna says they are already killed. You just fulfill your duty.
Yes.
So it was his duty.
Yes.
Krishna wanted him to do this, and he doesn't want us to kill the cow and other
Yes.
animals,
Yes.
other
Yeah.
entities.
Yes, that's what I said. He gave Arjuna the authority. Krishna gave him the authority to do that. And also when he exhibited his universal form, he showed Krishna that they're already dead. You're not doing the killing. It's said in another part of the Gita where we're not the doers, actually. He told Arjuna, just be the instrument. That's all you need to do, because I'm actually, doing it.
So similarly, one who is slaughtering the cow is saying, I am not the doer, that Krishna is inspiring me to kill, so I am killing.
That's non-authoritative. That has no validity.
In the heart of everyone, so he is inspiring me to kill, so I am killing.
You said Krishna's inspiring them to kill?
Yeah, Krishna is inspiring me. He is within my heart also, so he is inspiring me to kill the cow.
No, his demonic mentality is inspiring him to kill. Krishna's not inspiring him to kill the cow.
So Krishna wants you to stop, but he is not stopping, so he allows you to do the things.
Then he has to pay. He'll pay for it. In the Srimad Bhagavatam in Canto 5 talks about all the different hells that you go to, and you'll suffer for it, as Mataji was saying. You do it and you have to pay the penalty. You think you're getting away with it, but you're not. You will have to suffer. You know the canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, it describes all the hellish planets on the punishments you get for taking another life and other things, other sinful activities. It's there. The descriptions of what happens to you. So it may look like they're not getting any punishment, but they will get.
That's right, but when we understand the destiny of the cow is to be killed, their destiny is to be killed, so they cannot be die in other way. So someone has to kill the cow. So if somebody is inspiring them to kill the cow because their destiny is made like that, because everybody has their destiny. Every soul has destiny. So his destiny is to be killed. So just like in the war, there are so many soldiers being killed. Their destiny is to be killed. And just like in Kurukshetra, everybody was being killed. Their destiny was to be killed. Krishna said they already have been killed. So now these cows also maybe their destiny is that they should be killed. Or the ant is walking in the system, their destiny is to be killed by the feet of a person. So what do you say about that?
What do you want? Do you want to?
Well, it's a duty of the human being to understand what are the guidelines for the human behavior. Because everybody's going to die. That's what you just said. So we understand that in the material world that anyone that's born is going to die. But how they die, and I am responsible for their responsibility, is a very important distinction. So human beings have to understand what is God's prescription for life. And if we act within that prescription, we're covered and we're safe. If we act without that prescription, that's we're acting under Maya, and we have to bear consequences for that. So an intelligent human being won't say, well, maybe it's my duty to kill this cow. An intelligent human being will say, I need to understand what God wants me to do in reference to the cow and the tree and the flower and other human beings so that I can be free. So that's where our intelligence comes in at. And we have to understand that principle because God's law is very strict. For every life you take, you have to give your life. But if you're operating in righteous principles as a duty in cooperation with God's law, then there is no consequence. But our job is to understand what is that law? What is the guideline that Krishna has given us and how we treat everything and everyone? If we don't understand that, then we'll have misconceptions and we'll do the wrong thing. It's very important. And that's why we have Bhagavad-Gita and Bhagavatam and Sadhana Shastra.
One point. It's not that I understand that previous life this cow has killed me, now I am killing him.
Yes. Well, that may be true, but as an intelligent human being, you don't want to continue a cycle. It's a vicious cycle. I kill you, you kill me, I kill you. We keep that on for billions of lifetimes. So an intelligent person, or a person who's fortunately blessed by an intelligent person like Prabhupada, we will not participate in that vicious cycle. We won't take it up again. We'll let it stop. You know how they say the buck stops here? We'll let the vicious cycle stop here. So that's why a devotee stops all karma, good and bad karma, because also good karma has an effect as well. And we just surrender to Krishna, we do what Krishna wants, we do what makes Krishna happy, and then we get the right benefit.
Mataji, can you explain the good karma part as well?
So, karma kanda, you've heard that expression, of course, karma kanda. In the scriptures, there are prescriptions for doing good things. If you want a wife, you worship the sun god. If you want wealth, you do this. If you do this, you go to the heavenly planets. So, if you do pious acts, you'll get pious rewards. And pious people go to the heavens. But that's a trick, because the heavens also has birth, death, disease, and old age. And after all of your pious acts, let's say you live 10,000 years, you'll die again and fall back down to the earth to again be part of the vicious cycle. So if someone actually wants to be free from all of it, they give up the results of pious and impious acts, and we do what is called transcendental activity in bhakti-yoga. We're not just trying to be pious, although you have to kind of be a pious person to go beyond piety, but that's not our goal. Our goal is to please God, and to love God, and trying to get pious results or impious results. We're trying to please Krishna. Very important distinction that people should understand.
Thank
Because
you.
actually, for all of us to be born in Kali Yuga, we've been to the heavens, we've been to the hell, we've done it over and over again. So this is why Lord Chaitanya has come to give us a very liberating philosophy so that we don't have to do it again.
Thank you so much.